video, I'm going to show you how you can install Kali Linux on your VirtualBox. So those of you who don't know what is VirtualBox, VirtualBox is a tool using which you can run any operating system virtually on your host machine. So in this case, I have Windows as my host machine on which I have installed VirtualBox, and using VirtualBox I can run many different operating systems on my host machine, which is Windows 10, using VirtualBox. Now if you have never installed VirtualBox on your Windows operating system, the procedure is kali.org. So we are going to just click on this link, and once this kali.org website opens, you will see this tab here, which is downloads, right? So just hover over the downloads tab and then just choose download Kali Linux, and here you will see many different options, right? So what we want is we want to click on this option which says Kali Linux 64-bit. Under this we have installer also written here. Okay, so just click on this link, and once you click on this link, you will see that the download of this Kali Linux ISO file will start. Now this file is around 2 GB, so it will take some time to download. So I have already downloaded this ISO file, and once you have downloaded this ISO file, this is going to look like this. Okay, so this file name is kali-linux-2020.1b, which is the version at the time of making this video, -installer-amd64.iso files. So we have downloaded the 64-bit ISO file. Now once you have this ISO file, we are ready to install Kali Linux on our VirtualBox. So just open your VirtualBox manager, and then you just need to click on this new button here and give the name to your Kali Linux operating system. So because we are installing Kali Linux, so I'm going to just give the name Kali to my virtual machine, and then from the type you can choose Linux from here. Now in the version you will see many different options, and you will not find Kali option here. So the nearest to this is Debian 64-bit. Okay, so just choose Debian 64-bit here and the version, and then click on next. Now in the memory size, I always like to move it to the green level. So up to the green level, I just move this here, and then I will click next. And in the hard disk, I will leave this as default, which is create a virtual hard disk now, and then click on the create button. Now here, hard disk file type, I will leave it as VDI, which is virtual disk image, and then click on next. And in the storage on physical hard drive, I will leave it as default, which is dynamically allocated. If you want to read more about what is dynamically allocated or fixed size, the description is given here, so you can read more about that. So I'm going to choose dynamically allocated and then click on next. And here you can choose the file location and the size which you want to give to your Kali Linux. So the location by default is this one. So if you don't have the good reason to change this location, just leave it as default. And the size here by default is 8 GB. So I will move it to around, let's say, 100 GB here. So I'm going to just move it to approximately 100 GB, and then click on the create button. This is going to create a virtual machine on your VirtualBox manager, you can see here. But still you don't need to click on the start button. Just choose the Kali Linux option here, and then click on the settings option. And once the setting option opens, you will see we have chosen some of the settings from the create virtual machine options already. So you will see those options here, and at any time you can change these settings. So in general, just go to the advanced settings, and then just choose in the shared clipboard and drag and drop bi-directional option. This will enable you to drag the files from your host machine, which is Windows in my case, to the Kali Linux and vice versa. Now in the description you can provide any description, and in the disk encryption just leave it as default. Now in the system, just click on system here, and when you go to the processors here, so by default VirtualBox assigns one CPU to your virtual machine, but you can move it to use more CPUs from here. So I will choose 4 CPUs here, but you can move it according to your host machine's capabilities. For now I will choose 4 processors here, and I will leave the other things as default. In the display I will leave everything as default, and now just move to the storage section. So this section is important because from this section we are going to provide the ISO file location. So just click on storage and then click on the empty disk option here, and then just click on this CD icon, and once you click on the CD icon just choose this option which says choose a disk file, and from here you just need to browse to the location where you have downloaded your Kali Linux ISO file. So I'm going to just copy the path from here and then paste here, and then choose this ISO file path which I have chosen, and then click on open, and you will see this file here now. Okay, so make sure that you see the same file name which you have downloaded, right? So once you see this, every other settings is by default for now okay, but in future also you can change any other settings if you are not happy with those default settings. So for now I'm going to just click on OK, and once you click on OK, you are ready to start your virtual machine installation. So just click on Kali and then click on start, which is going to start the installation of your Kali Linux. Now at this point I'm going to just click on the start button, and you will be able to see this kind of window. So you can see there are many different ways in which you can install Kali Linux, but the most popular one is graphical install. So just leave this as default, which is graphical install. If this is not selected by default, you can use your arrow keys to move to the location where you highlight your graphical install option, and then press enter key. So just press enter, which is going to start the installation of Kali Linux. So now you will see this window where you can select the language in which you want to install Kali Linux. So here you can see many different languages. I'm going to choose the English language for now and then click on continue. And on the next window you can select your location. So by default it's United States, but you can choose any other locations from here. I will leave United States as it is, and then click on continue. And now you can configure the keyboard layout. So many different regions have different keyboard layouts, right? So in my case I'm going to use a German keyboard layout because I'm using a German keyboard, so I'm going to choose German, but you can choose any other keyboard layouts from here. Okay, so I will choose German and then click on continue, and now you can see it says detect and mount installation media. So just wait for the next option to appear. Now after some time you will see this window where you can configure the network. So here you can give any name to your host name. By default it's Kali. I will leave it as default, but you can change this host name anytime you want. So I will leave it as Kali and then click on continue. And on the next window you can choose the domain name. So if you don't have the domain name, you can leave it as blank, and I will also leave it as blank and click on continue. And now it's going to ask for the full name of the new user. So here you can provide the full name of the user. For now I'm going to provide, let's say, Codebind in my case, but you can provide any other name as full name. Now the username by default will be selected whatever you have given in the previous window. I will leave it also as default, which is code bind in my case. If you want to change this username of your account, then you can change it from here also. Now click on continue. Now here you can set any password which you will use at the time of login to your Kali Linux. Okay, so I'm going to choose a simple password for now and then verify this password. You just need to remember this password and use this password at the time of login, right? And then click on continue. And now you can choose the clock. So for now I'm going to choose central region. These options will appear different if you have chosen the different location. Then click on continue. And now after some time you will see this option. Here you have as the partition disk many options here. I will choose this option which says guided use entire disk for now, and then click on continue. And you have this option, so you don't have any other option but to choose this. So I will just click on continue once again, and on the next window you can choose the partition disks. So you have three options here. I will choose the first option from here, but you can choose wisely from those two options also. So I will leave it on you, whatever you want to choose. I will choose the first option here, which is all files in one partition, and then click on continue. And now I have this option which says partition disk. I will just leave everything as default, which is finish partitioning, and write the changes to the disk, and then click on continue. And then you have the next window. So here you can see it asks us write the changes to the disk. So I will say yes, and then click on continue. Now at this stage you may have to wait for some time until this process reaches to the end. And now you will see this window which says configure the package manager. So for now I don't have any package manager information, so I will leave it as blank. You can leave it as blank if you don't have any, and then click on continue. So now I can see this window which says software selection here. So by default this Kali default desktop environment is selected here, but if you want any other desktop environment, for example Genome or KDE Plasma or any other desktop environment, you can choose it from these options, right? I will leave everything as default because it's enough. You can see this message which is an installation step failed, and now I can see this Kali Linux desktop. Okay, now one thing you will notice here is when you just maximize this window of the VirtualBox, the Kali Linux desktop will not resize according to the size of your VirtualBox window. So this problem we can solve by installing the VirtualBox guest editions on our Kali Linux. Now to install VirtualBox guest editions on Kali Linux, what you can do is